Happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to be taking a movie out of my movie collection and making a poster out of it. Depending on what the randomizer chooses, I'd like to do something where I take something as inspiration from what happens inside the movie itself and make that into a poster rather than making a poster for the movie. But it also depends on what movie it chooses. As far as the style goes, I don't really know exactly what I'm going to make right now. Probably something either minimalist design, maybe Bauhaus, or maybe Swiss, but we'll just see what happens. All right, before we get started, please remember to hit like and subscribe, and also click the bell for notifications to be notified of all new content. Now, let's head over to the randomizer. All right, so I have all of my movies copied and pasted into here, so now let's pick a movie. Apollo 13. Okay, so I'm not as familiar with this movie, so I'm not really sure exactly what I'm gonna do. All right, so here's the movie itself, and I must say I'm very ashamed because I don't actually know this movie that well. I have seen it one time all the way through, and I've seen a couple of clips here and there and everything, so I'm not really too familiar with it. However, I do know that the film takes place in 1970, so I'm thinking that as far as the design style goes, probably, and I may actually go get some a little bit of inspiration from this, maybe a couple of screenshots, but like those really like those old NASA those manuals that they had like during the time, I'm probably going to go look up some of those for some inspiration. So I think that that's going to be the direction that I go in. I think this may be the first time, or maybe one of the very few times, that I'm actually doing this, where I'm actually going to get some inspiration from, like just some inspiration from Google, just kind of see what's, just kind of see what's going on and everything. I do believe that, let's see, who did the NASA logo? Was that Paul Rand that did the NASA logo? I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, so I really like, so this right here, the NASA, the graphic standards manual, this is actually pretty cool. And I also really like the perforation that we've got going on right here. We can easily do that. So let's see, so here's the NASA. Okay, so that's talking about the color palette and everything like that. I love stuff like this. So I really like the minimalism of this in particular, and I might even see if I can find that NASA font, and I'm going to see if I can actually find a good version of the font that that's usable and everything. So and then there's this right here. This is actually pretty cool. So I like how this is indexed out, like really good use of white space right here. So I'm probably going to grab a couple of these screenshots and drag them into Illustrator. Okay, so I'm here in Illustrator, and I want to just kind of drag and drop a couple of things in here. I decided to make this 18 by 27 just because I want to really, the thing that's really cool about these manuals and just the art overall is really the amount of empty space that's in here. So I'm gonna just kind of drag and drop a couple of things in here, just kind of like as reference points, And this is really interesting right here because, as you can see, the text here is not exactly centered. So like when we go from about right here, actually no, it's about right here where the text is actually where the sheet is actually starting from, and then you go like right around to here, you can actually see it is definitely off center. So I may do something like that as well, where I just completely break the rules of formatting, completely break the rules of alignment, while still adhering to keeping everything aligned together once we actually put the elements down. So I like these right here. I think I may grab one more in here as some color inspiration, because we got the red, white, and blue and everything, and we'll probably do that. In looking at this cover, the astronauts are right there on the cover with the blue background. They've got the white suits and they've got the American flags on. So I'll probably go with a red, white, and blue color palette. So I'm going to drag this into here. And really, this is just going to be my inspiration. So I'm actually going to go now to one of my favorite websites, dafont.com, and I'm just going to see if they have the NASA font. Okay, so here's one right here, and I'm going to go ahead and download this and install it. All right, so I have this installed, and as you can see, if you look at this right here, it's not exactly the same, but that's really fine for the purposes of this poster. If this were like a paid commission piece, then I would certainly, spend a lot more time in developing this and making sure that it matches, that NASA font. However, so we've only got the one weight right here for this font, but we can easily go in and add a stroke to it and really thicken it up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use You know what? I just realized. Okay, good. The numbers are there. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so we're going to do Apollo 13 right here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just break all of these individual letters apart. And the reason I'm going to do that, the reason why I'm not going to kern it first, is because these are going to be thickened up. So I'm actually going to thicken them up to have them match the thickness of these letters right here. So we're probably gonna have to bring that up to about a 10 point or something like that, and then I'll go in and make sure that those colors are matching each other. They need to be the same shade of black. All right, and that thickness looks about right too. All right, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go to Object, Expand, and expand the fill and the stroke, and then I'm gonna go up here to unite and unite all of it together. Now what that's done is that's actually united the fill, the stroke, and everything like that for the individual letters, but it's also united it all together as one complete shape. So what we have to do now with all of this selected is do Shift Command G, or I think Shift Control G on Windows. I'm sorry if that's not right. And what that will do is that will break these up individual shapes. All right, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go in, as you can see with the NASA logo, everything is, that A and the S is connected to each other. So I'm gonna look for some areas. It doesn't really look like we can do too much of that because, because of the nature of the letters that we've got going on here, but we can definitely connect the A and this P together. So we can certainly do that. And then for this, you don't want to connect a P and an O together, so just kind of make it nice and tight right there, because as you can see here, very little spacing between the N and the A and the S and the A. Right. So I'm going to go over here and do the same thing here. I'm going to really put it in nice and tight. I may actually open this up just a touch, like maybe one little arrow. Open it up right there. I do like this L running into this L right here because it does create that negative space that looks good. And then when we go right here, we're gonna go probably about that close. So that's looking good right there. There is, okay, good. So that I just needed to bring in that L just a little bit more. All right, and then for the 13, I actually do like it being on two separate lines, but there's a possibility that I may check to see what it looks like when you put it all on one line. But I'm going to go ahead and set this up as if it's going to be on two lines. So for this one and the 3, you want to make sure that you've definitely got a good amount of space in between them, so so that it's obvious that it's a 13. So I'm going to do maybe a quarter of an inch right there. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to move this over here, and then I'm going to do a copy right over here on this side. That way I've got that layout if I decide to go with that. So now I'm going to bring this up here to the same line, and I just want to see what it looks like if we do it all on one line. Of course, what we're going to have to do here is we are going to have to reduce the size. And we want to push that out probably about an inch or so. Since all of the letters and the nature of this, all of the letters are really close together, it's okay to push it out a little to kind of reduce the amount of space that's there. So we're probably going to do that. The only downside of this is if we have it all on one line, we're trying to match the aesthetic of this old graphic standards manual right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go, like, this is obviously not going to be centered. So centered would be like this right here. But what we're going to do is probably push it off center about an inch or so. And as you can see, the only downside of that is that we're really losing, we're losing the size of the main text that we want people to draw their eyes to. So I think that we have given this a good go, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I'm going to bring back the layout that we did before. So what I'll probably do here is I may look at a possibility of putting the 13 on this side right here. For some reason that looks a little bit more spacey. But anyway, so let's go over here, go to center, and then maybe push it off center by about an inch or so. And then right here, just in terms of the X coordinate, I want to make sure that the anchor point is at the top right. So if we need to adjust anything, I want it to be in relation or with respect to the top right anchor point. So let's take a look at this. So this NASA right here, let's take a look at the actual width of the paper. It's going to go from here to here, and that is about, it's close to 18 inches. So we'll just say 18 inches. And this right here, the actual NASA part, is over 9.5 inches. So as you can see, the NASA text actually takes up more than half of the space. So we're going to do the same thing there. And I'm actually going to pretend like we've got margins going on here, you know, just in terms of respecting the white space. So we'll just say 1 inch on both sides, so 16 inches total. And then I'm going to make, okay, so this is good actually. So this is already at 9 inches. I'm actually a pretty good, I'm a pretty big fan of that size. I think I might actually go up to 10 inches right here just to be on the safe side. And we can go ahead and get rid of this box right here. So I'm actually gonna speed up this portion of the video a little bit. I'm just gonna kind of experiment around with placement and everything. Really what I'm gonna be doing is using the rest of this manual as inspiration for type layout, and then I've also got this right here as inspiration for color. So we'll just see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and speed up, and I'll talk if I feel the need to. All right, so as you can see, I changed the sizing from 18 by 27 to 18 by 24 because as I got to thinking about it and just kind of throwing some elements around, I realized that, you know, there's not going to be too much that's actually going on this poster. And even though I really like the aesthetics of everything that's on here, I just can't think of really anything beyond that, because when you look at a movie poster, there's not really a ton of text on it. You know, there's the title, there's the cast, you know, and like maybe a release date and maybe a tagline or something like that, but there's not a ton of text. So if I had more time to go in here and really, you know, think about what I would possibly put on here, I'd probably find some more text to put on here. But I think I'm just going to leave it like this as it is for now. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to see about the color right here. I am intrigued by that red. So I want to see how the red looks. And I think that's super cool, actually. So very vintage looking and everything. So I think that's really cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy these individual elements from Illustrator into Photoshop, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Why I'm gonna do them individually. So let's head over to Photoshop. All right, so the very first thing that I did here was copy and paste it exactly as it's laid out in Illustrator. And the reason I'm going to do that is, so I'm going to go over here to the side really quick, set up a guide layout. And I'll probably come in, let's see, maybe from the right side, 1.5625 inches, or actually maybe a little bit more than that. So 2, yeah, we'll do that. All right, so now we'll go over here and align this to that grid. So everything is nice and aligned to the right side. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and grab all of the things that are small text right here, which is just those 2 little selections. Paste these in place so that way I know exactly where everything needs to be in relation to each other. And then I will copy and paste the Apollo 13 title in, and then we can just delete that that old one. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to unlock this right here, the background, grab the hex value for that that like beige paper right there, and add a solid color background layer. So that way I can, if I want to, I can always go in and adjust the color of the paper. And as far as the paper goes, I would actually like to see if we can find like a texture or something like that. Probably not going to be from just typing in paper perforation. But okay, here we go. So this one right here, that's awfully small. Maybe this one, also kind of small, but it may actually work, especially if we go in and add some effects. So let's blow this up pretty big right here. Okay, so not too bad. And what we can do is we can just kind of make sure that we pick up the colorization of the paper color that we've got going on here. And then what we'll do is we'll just add some grain and maybe even another paper texture on top of it to hide all of the pixelation. Because as you can see right here, since we blew it up, it was a very small image. Since we blew it up, we've got a lot of pixelation going on here. But really, we should be able to kind of cover those up in just adding a little bit more paper texture on top of it. So first thing I'm going to do is blend this with the color that we've got underneath the layer. So usually Multiply does a pretty good job of that. Basically what we want is we want the layer on top to have the color of the layer on the bottom. Usually Multiply does a good job. All right, so first thing I'm going to do before I add any type of grain or noise or anything like that to where we can really hide the pixelation is I'm going to go in and see what we have in terms of vintage paper textures. We need something that's a little bit more subtle, not too crazy. Something like that is going to be just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to just drag this on top of that layer. I'm going to rotate this so we can center it up. And what this will do is we'll actually just kind of blend this with the layer underneath using a blending mode. There we go. So as you can see right here, this is already looking a lot better. However, we still have some pixelation going on here. So I'm going to see what I can do with that. I'm going to try a couple of different techniques. See what we can do with the oil paint. Okay, so that's looking good right there. We've already smoothed that out quite nicely. And I just want to see, so let's take a look at this right here. We're going to select the color range of the shadows, which should just pick up, actually, wait a second. I meant to do just that one layer, so let's do that. Color range of the shadows. Okay. Actually, we can just go in and deselect everything that I didn't want it to select. There we go. And we just hit delete on there. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go back here. I'm trying to get the inside of those to be white. Okay, there we go. I'm probably just gonna have to create a new layer. So we'll just say white right here, and then we'll make sure that we lock our transparency. And that, if we bring it up to the top, why isn't this working? That's crazy. One second.
One eternity later.
All right, there we go. Finally figured it out. So all I did was, I made the selection, saved it, and then loaded the selection onto a new layer. So that way I can just isolate those white circles right there. And now that we actually have that in place, we can go in and just kind of do something like this where we're just kind of drop the opacity, you know, still nice and white, but it's still picking up those effects that's in there. And with those little inner shadows, it just makes it look like, you know, it's, it makes it look like it's like, you know, laying down on a table or something like that. Okay, so that's looking good. And then, so the last thing that we'll do is just go in and add a few more effects. I'm going to go ahead and brighten this layer right here, just the paper layer, because it's looking a little bit too bright, or I'm sorry, a little bit too dark. So we just go in and brighten that up. So that's looking good. And now we'll just go in and add a grain layer, not a gray layer, but a grain layer. There we go. Fill it with 50% gray. Go to camera raw filter. And we don't need too much grain because we already have a pretty good amount in the paper that we've got going on. And I may give it just a slight vignette just around. So we'll go to overlay and see how that looks. All right, looking really cool. And then now, so we're good with the paper, we're good with the background, everything is looking good. So now all we have to do is we have to blend the ink into the paper itself, because this is super crisp and super sharp, and it looks like it's just text that's just laying on top of the paper. Oops, I just dropped something on the floor. So it just looks like it's just laying on top of the paper. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna blend the text into the paper, and it's very simple. So all we're gonna do is go to blur and Gaussian blur, and then probably bring this up to about 5 or something like that. Or actually, that may be a little bit too strong. We'll just bring it down to 3. And sometimes your underlying layer, you can just kind of blend this in a little bit. So we want to make it look a little bit aged, not too much, you know, like it doesn't need to be too much right here. But this right here, this is using the blend if method. So what it's saying is we're going to blend the underlying layer if it's gray. So what I did here was I held down Option on my keyboard and grabbed this left one right here and brought it to about 225, something like that, and then just hit OK when you're done. So that way, you know, it's kind of blending the ink into the paper. It's no longer it no longer looks like it's just clean text that's sitting on top of the paper. So we'll do the same thing here, and this is the reason that I separated these into 2 layers, is because the Gaussian blur is actually going to work differently with smaller shapes versus big shapes. So I'm going to go up here to filter, and we're just going to apply a Gaussian blur, probably about a 1.5 to something like that. So that looks good. And then we'll go back into the blend if method and do the same thing here. Although we're going to have to bring it a little bit further to about 220, something like that. Okay, so this is it at 100% view. You can see all of the text right here. It's blending in very nicely with that paper. So it looks like it's actually printed onto the paper. So, all right, so there it is. 100% view. Here is my my old the NASA graphic standards inspired Apollo 13 movie poster. So I think it looks really cool, and you could easily go in and if you wanted to change the color of this to like that blue or something like that, that would be really cool too, to kind of match the Blu-ray cover. So anyway, so that is it, and let me go to full screen really quickly for the outro. All right, there we go. So there it is. There's the poster. I would probably leave it at red because that's really cool. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I really hope you learned something about Photoshop and Illustrator in the process. All right, well, thanks a lot for watching me make that poster. I have got to give this movie another watch. It's been at least 10 years since I've seen it, so it's a great movie. For some reason, I just haven't watched it. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and also click the bell for notifications to be notified of all future content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.